Greetings, my fellow film lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, and I am transmitting from the beautiful mountainous range of the Land of the Enchantment, which is also known as New Mexico. Yeah, I know I've been out on vacation for a while, a little camping, had a little adventure, took a bath in the stream within the actually Santa Fe National Forest. So just relaxing a few days and heading on back up to Salt Lake City, Utah to do some work up there. And while at that, I'll try to do my podcast as well. Well, today I'm going to be just doing a numerous amount of topics, current events most likely. And this is one here, came from SHTFplan.com. You can figure it out. It was written by Matt Slavo. It's entitled, "The US Economy Has Collapsed. This is a monstrous negative revision." It came out today. And as it reads, for months, the administration, financial pundits, and Wall Street analysts made it a point to inform Americans about healthy state of our economy. One of the key metrics they used as proof of recovery was the gross domestic product, GDP, which measures the productive output of the U.S. economy as a whole. Earlier this year, the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis noted that this measure was showing positive growth. But now, after a second official revision, all of that purported growth used to goad consumers into spending more money on homes, cars, and other goods has been revealed to be nothing but conjecture. According to the BEA, not only did economic growth stall during the first quarter of 2014, it completely collapsed, signaling a significant shift in the consumption habits amid increasing food and energy prices. Real gross domestic product, the output of goods and services produced by labor and property located in the United States, decreased at an annual rate of 2.9% in the first quarter of 2014, according to the third estimate released by the Bureau of Economic Analysis. The government first made consumers believe that the economy grew, then they revised this down to slight negative growth. The latest revision of negative 2.9%. Growth is significant because even with the official inflation at over 2%, America's economic output has declined. It seems that no matter how much money they pump into the system, it isn't enough to offset the lack of income or job growth. This is a monstrous negative revision. Big part of what it was a non-residential fixed investment rather than invest. Companies have issued debt and bought back stock. But this does nothing for the economy. It simply blows a bubble in the market. How long before that comes to roost? Not long, I suspect. If you think companies don't expect a recession inbound, you're nuts. Inventory draws down, subtracted 1.7% from the GDP number. Companies don't build inventories if they don't think they can sell them. As such as this is a forward indicator. Oh, and current production profits. They're down while current taxes were up. Obamacare, anyone? Worse than that, undistributed profits decreased too. And this is the second quarter sequentially in which they did. What does a company pays dividends with? Undistributed profits. So, for the 2 quarters, the market has risen like a rocket, while the fuel for that rise has been exhausted for the last 6 months. This will turn out well, I'm sure. This is from the source, Carl Denninger, the market ticker. Officially, we have not yet entered a recession. That requires 2 quarters of negative growth. However, the current trend indicates that exactly what's going on to happen. In the next 30 days, the BEA should be releasing the GDP rate for the second quarter of 2014. According to economist John Williams, that will more than likely show a negative print and will lead to an official confirmation that the U.S. has entered another recession. What's worse, unlike the previous recessions. Hold on here. Shoot, one moment. Okay, I'm back. What's worse, unlike the previous recession that followed the collapse of 2008, there is no way out of this one. The reason for this is that consumer is strapped, doesn't have a liquidity to fuel the growth in consumption. Income, the median household income, net of inflation, is as low as it was in 1967. The average guy is not staying ahead of inflation. As a result, personal consumption is more than 2/3 of the economy. There is no way you can have a positive, sustainable growth in the U.S. economy without the consumer being healthy. As the renewed downturn gains wider acceptance or wider recognition, that will intensify the selling pressure. When someone starts selling, it's going to be a race for the door, and I am looking for a dollar selling panic to be the trigger for the onset of hyperinflation. I don't see what will save it at this point. The cries of fear-mongering and doom porn, contrarian economics, and analysts warned that these numbers were being fabricated. Despite the fact the underlying fundamentals show a clear drawdown in consumer confidence, company inventory, home sales, and overall spending. Now all those warnings are coming to pass. We have entered the next leg down, and given that the governments of the world have pretty much used all of the arrows in their quivers, there is nothing to stop what's coming. And what's coming is nothing short of a complete collapse of your way of life. Hard to believe, yes. Implausible, no. It is so plausible, in fact, that well-known radio commentator Mark Levin recently noted that the U.S. government has been actively preparing and stimulating the collapse of our financial system, as well as the widespread violence that will follow. I will tell you what I think they're simulating: the collapse of our financial system, the collapse of our society, and the potential for widespread violence, looting, killing in the streets, because that's what happens when the economy collapses. I'm not talking about a recession, I'm talking about a collapse. When people are desperate, when they can't get food or clothing, when they have no way of going from place to place, when they can't protect themselves, there aren't enough police officers on the face of the earth to adequately handle a situation like that. This is happening, that's his quote. This is happening right here and now. The streets may not devolve into madness tomorrow or next month, but piece by piece, the foundation of America's economic health and social structure are crumbling. Time to finalize preparations for what's coming is now. It's going to go from bad to worse. Yep. And first of all, I'll make this blunt and clear. It has nothing to do with open free market capitalism. You have to hear all these experts going to blame capitalism for it, all forms of capitalism. It is irrelevant. What has happened is when you have neo-mercantilism, you have big banks and private banks running our finances, putting money out of thin air, and of course you have the NAFTA, GATT, World Trade Organization, etc. The United States is going to be the big example. It's been happening all across Europe and even areas in Asia. Only thing I can tell everyone this: prepare yourselves the best you can. Never do this out of fear, but awareness. And in addition, network with individuals that you can work together during these hard times. And what we need to go back to is open free market, sound money, and get rid of the big banks, big central banks like the Federal Reserve. Get out of the World Bank. Get out of the International Monetary Fund. relieve ourselves from the World Trade Organization. I know in good faith that there are people within our governments, and I'm not saying all of them are bad, but you got a great amount of armed people can work without using some global bureaucracy. And that's what I have to say, my friends. All you gotta do is just pay attention. And don't blame the Democrats, don't blame the Republicans, don't blame Obama or Bush. They're all part of the same team in different gangs. Red or blue, expect to get screwed. Alright? Okay, our next one here be by the same gentleman. Came out yesterday. Max Flavo again. And it's the United Nations seek US-based disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration specialists. As it reads here, it's no secret that the United Nations, with assistance from members of the executive and legislative branches in the United States, have been actively working to reduce Americans' accessibility to firearms. In 2012, President Obama, along with Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, spearheaded a backdoor move that would have imposed gun control on the United States through foreign means by signing a global disarmament initiative known as the Small Arms Treaty. Though that attempt failed, mass shootings incidents at Sandy Hook and elsewhere have kept the pressure on gun owners, with the president having made repeated suggestions that he would mandate gun restrictions through executive order should state and federal legislatures fail to act. Given the rocky history between America's gun owners and the United Nations, chances are that the push for disarmament will continue with more fervor than ever before. In fact, a recent job posting at the United Nations website suggests that the organization is not only working to get guns out of the hands of American citizens, they are actively preparing personnel to assist in what they call disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration activities. As if that's not bad enough, the duty station for this key UN peacekeeping operation department is New York City, suggesting that the organization believes such operations may be concerning in the United States at some point in the future. If you like to join them in their efforts to confiscate firearms, then you can apply directly at the United Nations career opportunity pages, and there is a link for that, my friends. Well, I say no, okay? Because they will screw you in the end as well. And there's a posting here, and you can put the full list in there if you want. It says, posting, Disarmament, Demobilization, and Reintegration Officer, P4. Job code title, Disarmament, Demobilization, and Reintegration Officer. Department, Office, Department of Peacekeeping Operations, Duty, New York City, Duty Station, New York. Work experience, a minimum of 7 years of progressively responsible experience in disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration or related area. Experience working with peacekeeping, peace building, or developed programs, operations is desirable. Experience with small arms controls, conflict, post-conflict crisis management, economic recovery is desirable. Experience coordinating multiple partner agencies, fund, or programs is desirable. Languages, English and French are the working languages of the United Nations Secretariat. For the post-advertising, fluency in English is required. We have a full listing and video commentary on that link. According to the United Nations information page on DDR operations, the New York Post will involve various aspects related to the process by which a governing organization will confiscate firearms, all of which target what the UN calls small arms. And it says here, disarmament is a collection, documentation, control, and disposal of small arms, ammunition, explosives, and light and heavy weapons from combatants and often from the civilian population. Demobilization is the formal and controlled discharge of active combatants from armed forces and groups, including a phase of reinsertion, which provides short-term assistance to ex-combatants. Reintegration is the process by which ex-combatants acquire civilian status and gain sustainable employment and income. It is a political, social, and economic process with an open time frame, primarily taking place in the communities at the local level. The object of the DDR process is to contribute to security and stability in post-conflict environments so that recovery and development can begin. DDR helps create an enabling environment for political and peace processes by dealing with security problems that arises when ex-combatants are trying to adjust to normal life during the vital transition period from conflict to peace and development. Ambassador Faith Willsey, a U.S. delegate in the UN Armed Small Conference, warned in 2012 that the organization's intention is to eventually disarm all Americans in the name of peace. What a wet dream, I would say. In New York, right here on our shoes, we've got a Trojan horse. They won't accept U.S. armed firearm policy. They want to take the decision away from the U.S. electorate and undermine our Constitution. It would seem that the heavy militarization of domestic law enforcement agencies, coupled with doomsday legislative actions and executive order designed to seize Americans' resources and firearms in the event of a declared emergency, may be synchronized with the involvement of foreign troops and officials. In fact, a press release from the Ministry of Russian Federation for Civil Defense and Emergencies confirmed in 2013 that America's Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, will coordinate with foreign militaries and security teams during a disaster on U.S. soil. There are links to that on there as well. Several documents signed during joint work of Russian Emergency Ministry and FEMA. The Russian Emergency Situation Ministry and the USA Federal Emergency Management Agency are going to exchange experts during joint rescue operations in major disasters. The document provides for expert cooperation in disaster response operations and to study the latest practices. In addition, the parties approved of the U.S.-Russian cooperation in this field in 2013-2014, which envisages exchange of experience, including monitoring and forecasting emergency situations, training of rescuers, development of mine rescuing, and provision of security at mass events. So, here's a good example. This whole Obama-Putin thing is nothing more than a distraction. So don't jump on that hype, my friends, alright? It is no secret that the U.S. government has been preparing riot gear, guns, ammunition, and detention centers for a major calamity that will likely involve violence and widespread civil unrest. Should such an event ever take place, the first order of business will include a declaration of martial law. And just as we saw during Hurricane Katrina, when the U.S. Constitution has been suspended, gun confiscation is soon to follow. No one will be able to be armed. We're going to take all the weapons. That's from New Orleans Police Chief Riley. And he's nothing more than a treasonous parasite. And that includes Jailbird Nagin, who was the mayor of New Orleans at the time. And there was a video link for that on the Untold Story of Gun Confiscation after Katrina. The majority of our service members who will be called upon times of emergency may realize what's happening and refuse to negate their oaths of the U.S. Constitution when push comes to shove. But foreign peacekeepers deployed under the UN banner will have no such convictions. They are ready, and they are getting ready for you. I will tell anyone in there who's involved with this United Nations DDR program, you're going to have a huge problem in your hands. You can do all the training you want. It will blow back in your face. And I don't give a damn if you listen to the show or not. You are part of the problem. You are one of those individuals that will sell your soul to a one world government, and they believe they're going to pay you really well. Don't be surprised if they stab you in the back, just like the past tyrants did along the 20th century. I could say Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin and Mao Tse-tung, just to name a few. And everyone out there, this affects every single individual within our planet. This is what we call New World Order 101. Everyone out there needs to prepare themselves, again, at all costs. So hopefully, let's be a republic, as with the United States, not an empire. And I believe this, the UN Plaza is nothing more than one big concrete outhouse. Prove me wrong. Send you information to say, I don't know what I'm talking about. And that's all enough said for that. Alright, next. This is from actually The Week. Came out today, around 6:11 a.m. Eastern. America's biggest foreign policy problem. No one trusts America anymore. The more times Uncle Sam pull out of half-finished conflicts, the less likely America is to be counted as the globe's protector. This is written by Pascal Emmanuel Gobry. As it reads here, Iraq is ablaze again, and as is so often true in the Middle East, it looks like there are no good options. Doing nothing and allowing an Al-Qaeda offshoot to set up a terrorist state over half of Iraq is obviously not a good idea. Then again, the US invading Iraq all over again doesn't seem like such a hot idea either. Obviously, the Iraq misadventure was started by America's 43rd president and opposed by his 44th. Nonetheless, it looks like the scale of this new disaster might have something to do with the Obama's White House incompetence and dithering in matters of foreign policy. The administration, for instance, was unable to decide whether it wanted to deal with the Iraqi government on the nature of continuing American presence. Iraq is a lethal syncretism between Shiites, Sunnis, and to a lesser extent, Kurds. A few Iraqis blindly trust members of the group of which they are not a part, and that it lacks of trust that is critical. Part of the reason why the United States, in the aftermath of the famous surge, was able to bring some order to Iraq was because America was able to bring the measure of trust to a region with a long history of mistrust. Sunnis could trust that the United States would protect them against the majority, and perhaps revenge-seeking Shiites, hence the so-called Sunni awakening that tamped down much of the violence. Today, the United States cannot be trusted. This is not a new problem. If you were to look at history of America's conflicts since the end of World War II, the main lesson would be don't trust America. What do the following groups have in common? Koreans above the 38th parallel in 1953, South Vietnamese in 75, Taliban Afghans in 89, Iraqi Kurds in 91, Somalis in 1993. Here are commonality. They all put their trust in the United States of America, and they got screwed as a result. States are, in Nietzsche's words, the coldest of all cold monsters, but not all states are as untrustworthy as the United States. Imperial Britain was ruthless, but it was rationally ruthless. This is not the case for America. When America intervenes in a country, forms local alliances, and then screws its allies, it's almost never because of cold-hearted calculation. Most of the time it is because of frightening improvisation. All the cases I have laid out involve America pulling out of half-finished conflicts, primarily for domestic political reasons rather than reasons of national interest. Please understand my point. Each of these particular cases, you can debate the case for or against what America did, and in some, or even many, America might have even done the right thing. But if you're still left with the problem that a group of non-Americans trust the American state at their own peril, and it is a big problem for U.S. foreign policy. If you lead an important faction in a country where America intervenes, why you should help the Americans, since records so clearly shows that they will drop you when the going gets tough. This leads to self-fulfilling prophecy because America is not as seen as trustworthy. Local stakeholders do not support America because local stakeholders don't support America. The going gets tough because the going gets tough. America gets going. This is pretty much what happened to the U.S. in Afghanistan. The self-fulfilling prophecy leads to a never-ending vicious cycle. But here's the thing. Despite everything, America really is this indispensable nation. The world's shipping lanes and with its trade and with the global economy are protected by the U.S. Navy. We hear a lot about war. We don't hear about many regional conflicts that don't happen because the world has a largely benevolent, through often clueless, hegemon, instead of being the plaything of jostling regional blocs. The U.S. security guarantees ensures peace in the Pacific, Europe, and still important chunks of the Middle East. These U.S. security guarantees are not perfect. Consider, if you will, a bank. Since 2008, we are all too aware how a bank is fundamentally an unstable edifice built on trust. On any given day, a bank never has enough money to meet all its deposits. If there is a bank run, if everyone tries to take their money out at the same time, the bank collapses. Trust and distrust in the bank are self-fulfilling. If everyone trusts the bank, there won't be a run, and depositors will have been right to trust the bank. If there is widespread distrust, the people will make a bank run, collapse the bank, and have been right to distrust. And so maintaining trust is a bank's most important job, as the managers of Lehman Brothers found out too late. Well, the United States is a bit like the World Security Bank. Can the United States fulfill its security guarantees? The great thing is that if everyone believes in the U.S. in the security guarantees, America doesn't have to fulfill them all. Would America really go to war with China over a tiny island of Taiwan? It is obvious that the best outcome for everyone is that we have never find out. In the meantime, the world is kept sort of peaceful and sort of prosperous because all over its maps are red lines drawn by American security guarantees. But if America continues to be so untrustworthy as an international actor, how long until there is a bank run on American security? Already, Chinese officials are watching America's response, or lack thereof, to the defiance to Uncle Sam global order in Ukraine and Syria. The world is a big chessboard, and moves in one place affect the rest of the board. This is a problem that is bigger than any country or any region. It's a fundamental problem with how America approaches the world. And the biggest problem is that no one seems to be aware of the problem, or only dimly. How to fix it? Well, the first step is to admit you have a problem. But perhaps I can offer a suggestion or just a wish. Perhaps if America actually had a strategy on how to deal with the world, perhaps if America viewed the world as something definite to embrace and work on, rather than the amorphous blob out there, perhaps if America actually had a sense of mission rather than necessity about its role in the world, perhaps then it would feel a bit ashamed to so rarely honor its commitments. It's good article by Mr. Manuel Goldby, and I have to really agree with him a lot in good faith, because the United States should never be the policeman of the world or an empire. We need to be back as a constitutional republic. Just denounce the federal corporation, which is under the U.S. codes. So I did that I addressed it in my past episodes, somewhere around December. I definitely check that out. And just gotta think more how to do business and honorable trade with these other nations, instead of having them come out and play sweet Polly purebred for them as underdog. A lot of these nations need to learn to defend themselves the best they can. It's like the time when they had sword disarmament in Rome. A lot of the Roman citizens were crying to Caesar and the parliament and saying, help us, we need, protect us from all these violent criminals. Everyone at these nations need to do self-preservation. So, all right. Well, next I'm going to be hitting here. Very interesting here. I'll be right back.